Hi guys, I'm Phil Town. I'm the founder of Rule 1 Investing, and today I want to show you the huge impact that inflation can have on your retirement and your retirement investments. And it's not necessarily a good thing. Inflation is something that many people have completely forgotten to factor in when they're calculating how much money they're going to need when they retire. Part of the reason for that is because today we have fairly low inflation. It's only running at 1% to 2% per year. But historically it's been at a number that doesn't sound a lot worse, 3% a year. But man, can that be detrimental? And there's a bunch of reasons why. So let's kind of go into that a little bit, and then we'll kind of take some examples here. I've got a spreadsheet built out that you guys can use to play with, and it's quite entertaining in a very sort of macabre, sick way about what you're really going to need to retire on down the road 20 years from now. So first off, inflation, it is a devaluing of the buying power of a currency. And it occurs over time as the government continues to pump money into the economy. There's more and more money supply buying a relatively fixed amount of stuff. And as there's more and more money supply, naturally people feel like they have more money, and so they're willing to bid up the price of things. And so you have, when there's a lot of inflation, then wages are increasing, which everybody feels really good about at first, but so are prices, right? So people feel like they've got more money and they're willing to pay a little more for a Coca-Cola, right? Remember when I was a kid, this is a long time ago, Coca-Cola was 10 cents. And today, and it had actually real sugar in it. Today you get a kind of a different kind of Coca-Cola, and it costs $1. So think about that for a second. 10 cents doubled up to 20, and then it went to 40, and then it went to 80, and now it's over $1. So there's over 3 doubles in the cost of a Coca-Cola since I was a kid, so we're talking about like 50 years ago. So 3 doubles, man, that's a lot of, I mean, imagine if my dad was making $10,000 a year back in the 1950s and his income increased by 3.5 doubles, he'd be making $20,000, $40,000, $80,000, and another half would be $120,000 a year. So what's interesting is a lot of times our wages haven't kept up with overall inflation. I mean, look at what's gone on with colleges as a result of the federal government providing federal government-backed loans to banks. Like the federal government is going to cover the downside if you don't pay your loan. And so banks are willing to lend you any amount of money to go to college. And as a result of that, all the colleges just kind of gradually kept raising their prices. And I'll tell you, man, when I went to school after Vietnam in the 70s, I went back and I earned my way through college, right? I mean, I went out and had jobs. You can't do that today, hardly, right? You can make it through a community college, okay? But inflation has taken the price of a college to insane heights. It's gone up at 8% a year. And what that means is, since 1970, that's about 45 years, 8% a year has doubled the price of college every 9 years. So 9 years into 45, that's 5 doubles, okay? So if I paid $1,000 to go to school, what are you gonna pay? Well, 5 doubles, 1,000 to 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, 16,000, 32,000. And I'll tell you, wages haven't kept up with that, all right? So let's talk about a little bit about how you factor inflation into the number that you're kind of calculating for yourself if you want to retire, let's say, in just 10 years. All right, and let's say you're 50 years old, you want to retire in 10 years, and you're going to be retired for, if you're going to retire at 60, let's say you make it 30 years in retirement, all right? And we'll figure 30 years in retirement. Okay, so, and let's start this example. You've got a 401k, normal 401k. You're going to have your money in the 401k growing, and we're going to start with $100,000 today is in your 401k. And then we're going to have a yearly contribution. You're going to, you're basically putting the kids through college or whatever. So we're only going to be able to put in $2,000 a year, for example. And what are we going to make on this? What do you think over the next 10 years? How about 6% in your 401k? probably a pretty reasonable number. I mean, I would probably want to go with 5 if I'm being a little more conservative, but I'm okay with, let's say, 6%. And then let's use inflation at, I think a reasonable inflation rate is probably going to be about 3%. I'm going to say 3%. So we're going to use 3% for the inflation rate. We're going to use 6% that you're going to make in your 401k, which I think is being very, very liberal about what you might actually get over the next 10 years. And what you end up with is that you've got $205,000 to live on 10 years from now to retire on. You're going to be retired a long time. Your cost of living, well, let's assume for a second that you're going to live on $50,000 a year. You've got $205,000, but it's not $50,000 a year 10 years from now, remember, because inflation is hitting everything, including the cost of living. So it's going to be $67,000 a year to live that same basic $50,000 a year lifestyle. And you're going to keep investing the money, and let's say it's going to be a little more conservative when you're retired, so we'll go to 5%. Inflation continues at 3%. And so guess what? How many years will you be able to live in retirement before you completely run out of money, only spending, in today's dollars, $50,000 a year? And the answer is 3 years. 3 years, okay? So that's kind of horrifying when you think about it. You want to hear something else that's really horrifying? If you were to not learn how to invest, and this is your investment idea, and 10 years from now you're going to retire, you better go find another $1.3 million after tax to put into your retirement account someplace, or you're not going to make it those 30 years of retirement. 1.3 million additional. Now, good. I hate doing this to you because it's just shock, I know. So we built these tools so you can play around and see for yourself. I know you're listening to this and thinking that can't be right, but the power of compounding is working against you with inflation. We want to have it working for you by getting a higher rate of return. Now, the only way that you can get a higher rate of return is either get really, really lucky, and unfortunately, sometimes when the market's going up like a rocket, you're getting really unlucky when it comes to inflation. That happened back in the 70s. The market would go up, but then, pow, inflation went up with it. And by the time I sold a house, the first house I bought, I sold in 1985, and the inflation was so bad that the guy went out and got a 30-year loan at 12% interest. So this works against you many, many different ways. And so let's find a way that it works in your favor to have higher rates of return, working compounding quicker. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change your rate of return from 6%, which is what you get when you don't know anything, to 15%, which is in the range of what's doable by an ordinary investor, not spending a lot of time working on this, but learning how, who knows how to find a wonderful business, knows how to keep it in their circle of competence, inside that canyon of what they really know about, and knows that it's on sale, and waits patiently to buy that company every time the market just drops like a brick. They pick up some new companies, okay? So there's just this real standard Rule 1 investment strategy that we teach at our workshop. What happens then? Okay, well, we're gonna have all the things the same, but we're gonna increase the rate of return to 15%. At that point, your number becomes $540,000, and you're only short about $96,000 to make it all the way those 30 years of retirement. So what that means is if we could save a little more capital each year, let's make it $3,000 a year in our 401k, then we're getting very, very close to having enough money. Let's check out $4,000 a year. Oh yeah, we're getting there. We're just gonna have to do $5,000 a year. We're almost there. I think if we go to 6, we might make it here. So you can play with these assumptions online on our tool set. Nope, gotta be a little higher than that. So you just keep adding to it until you get where you wanna go. So I'm really getting close now. About $6,600 a year in after-tax savings, starting today with $100,000, and you can live comfortably the rest of your life on a $50,000 a year current dollars lifestyle. But you're gonna have to learn how to make 15% a year, or you're never gonna get there. So the beautiful thing about learning to do Rule 1 investing is you can start with relatively small amounts of money. You can have relatively short amount of time before you're going to retire. And if you can achieve a 15% rate of return and save a little bit of money each year, you're going to be okay. So I guess there is another option. You can you can sort of be like people who simply love their job, like Warren Buffett, me. I love what I'm doing. I'm never going to quit. Just love your job and never retire, right? Never retire. But for most people, they're working a real 9-to-5 job. They're working a 9-to-10 job, whatever. And that's not the dream they have for themselves. And if you're like that, and you want to retire comfortably sometime, you want to live a fun lifestyle for the rest of your life, you got to make sure you're paying attention to both inflation rates and taking into account how much this is going to affect your overall savings and investment growth over 10 years. And just to play with this one more time, if we get into really terrible inflation, I just want to play with this one more time. Let's go back to the original scenario of $2,000 a year and making 5% per year, but let's put in, 6% in your while you're still working. But let's put in inflation when you're retired at 5%. Let's say it really takes off. At that point in time, you're short 1.8 million from living in retirement. You're so far away from it, you haven't even got a start on it. And in that case, you will be working for the rest of your life, whether you want to or not. So if you don't want that, then I think maybe you should start digging in on this stuff. And if you haven't seen the other videos I've got on retirement, make sure you take a look. So we're trying to help you guys. We're starting a revolution of individual investing. We'd love to hear from you. So how about doing this? How about we start a conversation? Answer this question. Have you started to plan and save for retirement yet? And is inflation something you're factoring into your plans? So leave a comment below about that with your answer, and we'll be happy to follow up with you. So I really hope you enjoy this thing. Thanks a lot for watching, you guys. Now go play. Now, if you enjoyed the video and you feel it was valuable in teaching you more about your finances and about how to do retirement planning, please subscribe to my channel. We're going to do a lot of this stuff. And please share this video with your friends or anybody else who might benefit from this information. It really helps us push this revolution out there. So, to learn how much money you actually need to save to be able to retire, here's where you go. Go to my free retirement calculator just by clicking the link on the screen or in the description.